Sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
This isn't the last Gemini video I want to make though, as there were a lot of plans for extended use of the Gemini spacecraft after the program had met all of its objectives. Plans were proposed for an advanced Gemini vehicle, a big Gemini vehicle that would serve a range of missions including a lunar landing. So that's an...
Hello, welcome, one and all. Okay, I might have been going too fast there, but welcome, one and all, to my Kerbal Space Program video series. Now, the reason I didn't start off, the reason I'm having a bit of stumbling while trying to make this intro is because I don't really know how to start it, because there was a clip before this. Normally, right after the intro, I start talking, but this one was different. So, unless you fast forwarded, you saw that clip of Matt Lowne. 3 weeks ago, his video recreating the Gemini program space race speedrun video. Now, he said that, if you listen to the clip, he said he was going to do, this wasn't going to be the last Gemini video he made. He wanted to do NASA's plan to take Gemini to the moon. Now, in order to one-up Matt Lowne, I've decided to do this before he can. So, the plan is to do a lunar landing using a Gemini command and service module and using a Mercury MKII lander. The design of the Mercury MKII is a little bit worth talking about because the cockpit is it's very interesting. From what I've been able to find, the Mercury MKII lander cockpit is just a big glass, sort of open-top cockpit where you would just always wear the spacesuit inside. Now, to recreate this shape in Kerbal Space Program, I used the Mark I fighter jet cockpit, which has the giant glass dome, the inline Mark I fighter jet cockpit. It's a big glass dome, so it's the closest thing in Kerbal Space Program that I was able to find that resembled the cockpit of the Mercury MKII lander. Now, the next part that I have to create is the rocket, which is going to be a Titan IIIe, similar to what the real-life counterpart of this mission would have used, a Titan IIIe rocket. So this Titan IIIe is nothing to write home about. It's just some of the thoroughbred boosters from the 1.8 update. The 2.5, not the biggest ones that you use for shuttles, but the intermediate 2.5 diameter ones. And now I'm just adding solar panels and batteries because we need that. And I really didn't feel like adding monopropellant tanks. I couldn't have been bothered to do that. So I just didn't do this with RCS. It was completely fine, actually. Didn't need any sort of RCS. It's just it's a quality of life thing. But, it just gets annoying having to place monopropellant tanks in a place that would look faithful to a real-life Gemini mission. And instead of using the Making History service module, I wanted to have the sort of tapered shape of the real-life Gemini service module. So to do that, I ended up just using the 2.5 meter to 1.875 meter adapter piece. 1.875 is the Gemini diameter that was added in Making History. But it's actually pretty useful. I use it a lot because it's, like an intermediate size. So it's extremely helpful for things like liquid boosters. Early game, early science mode stuff is always great to do. And, 2.5 sometimes is a bit big, but 1.25 is usually small. So, 1.875 right in the middle, just right. So, we're now on the launch pad, and we're going to ignite those solid rocket boosters and the main engines, and begin going up. Now, the real-life Titan III didn't use RS-25 engines. This should be common knowledge. The only two rockets that used or are going to use, one of them used them, and the next one is going to, is the shuttle and the SLS. Just honestly, the Vector, which is the equivalent to the shuttle engine, is just it's just there. It's not like the Reliant or Swivel, my other two go-to liquid fuel engines. The Vector is pretty good. It's a bit overpowered for some things, but it's definitely a very good, solid choice of 1.25 meter diameter engine with a really good thrust and very good gimbal. And we can go separate those boosters, create a node to get into orbit, because that's what needs to happen. And because I'm an idiot, I closed out the node. But yeah. Now I didn't do too efficient of an ascent because this rocket was very flip happy. So you know, it very much so wanted to flip over when it was in the denser parts of the atmosphere. And now that the fairing has been staged, you might have noticed the thing that exploded was our entire lower stage. However, it's completely fine because really, I kind of wanted to ditch it, but I don't really feel like ditching it. It's still full of fuel, so I just decided to let it not revert the flight and just complete my orbit using the upper skiff stage. And you know, I feel like the skiff engine, which is the equivalent to the J2, is a quite underrated engine. It's like the Poodle, just a bit more powerful, and yeah. But because it's so similar to the Poodle, it gets chosen over by the Poodle, but it's also a lot lower thrust than the Skipper, which is the other 2.5 vacuum engine option. So usually it's either Poodle or Skipper. The Skiff, on paper, sounds like probably one of the really good vacuum 2.5 engines, but it just doesn't have the efficiency of the Poodle, or even the Wolfhound, actually. That's the most efficient, I think it's the most efficient liquid fuel oxidizer engine. I might be wrong, but it's definitely the most efficient 2.5 meter engine. So, you know, I feel like the Skiff gets outshined by the power of the Skipper and the efficiency of the Wolfhound or Poodle. So yeah. But honestly, I think it was good. I think it was good for this one because I wanted to use an engine that, you know, wasn't the Skipper, because that orange shroud doesn't really look good. But I said this in my Duna video a couple weeks ago. The bottom of fuel tanks look very, very, very ugly. So, and I don't really like using the truss mount on a bare fuel tank underside for the Skipper engine. So what I ended up going for was the Skiff, because the Poodle wasn't powerful enough, and I feel like the Wolfhound just did not look appropriate for this use. But that stage is far gone, and we've ditched it in favor for the service module's main engine, which is just a Terrier engine. Terrier engine's my go-to engine. It's just a go-to engine for basically anything. Most of my newer shuttle orbital maneuvering systems use the Terrier at the 15 degree, or not 50, that's 50 degrees, I think it is. I just use them at an offset, and yeah, and it's completely fine. They're very efficient, very, very nice, 1.25 meter diameter, so they're very, very compact, decent thrust, and they don't have an abysmal thrust weight ratio like the nuclear engine. So it's, you know, it's actually possible to use them for things on like shuttle OMS systems, lunar landers. They're always great for the applications like that. But I rambled way past the creation of the maneuver node to get to the MUN, and now we are doing a mid-course correction because I wanted to make sure we're getting into a pro-grade MUN orbit. Why? That's my answer. I didn't really, no specific reason I went for a pro-grade MUN orbit other than because I like it that way, and also because I can just go to my go-to 90 degrees on the nav ball to get to orbit in the same direction as the CSM that we have to dock with. Because if you get into a retrograde orbit relative to your command and service module, or whatever you're docking with, you have to completely turn your orbit around, which costs the same amount of energy it costs to get into orbit. So, it's not very, you kind of got a problem if that ends up happening. But we can time warp down to the node, which is at MUN periapsis, because where else would it be? Can't be at MUN apoapsis, because that's infinite, because we're on an escape trajectory, so it has to be at periapsis. Or, you know, any point that's in the MUN sphere of influence, I guess. But, yeah. So we're gonna slow down with the engines. 250 meters per second, I think. It's going down quite rapidly. And, we can prepare to get our Kerbals into, or one of our Kerbals actually, not both of them, because it's a one-person lander. And if you notice those markers down there, that's actually a flag from a mission I did for fun just a couple days ago. It's just like an Apollo mission that was correctly scaled, so a lot bigger. So, this is a failed landing attempt, and so we can check it in reverse, and then notice that Jeb doesn't have any equipment. because I did not want to give them jetpacks, because, you know, it feels a bit unrealistic. So I just gave them these 2 placeholder items to get the backpack texture to appear, because they really don't need jetpacks on the Mun. They don't really need them, because Kerbals can just jump to most landers, or to most lander ladders. On a place like Midness, or even, on a place like Midness or Gilly, you really need them, because Kerbals, the jetpacks weigh quite a bit, in the new 1.11 update. So, you know, they jump very, very high. So on Midness, they will jump too high to, they'll jump just too high and they'll completely clear the lander. And on Gilly, I haven't tested this yet, but before the 1.11 update, oh yeah, and we just slammed into the side of a crater. Talked right past it. But yeah, just gonna go back to this part. And back to what I was saying. Even before the 1.11 update, Kerbals jumped extremely high on Gilly. And, you know, maybe that could be a challenge, you know, to NBA jump, into an escape trajectory off of Gilly, because it was extremely easy to, jump. It's really, really easy to do anything on Gilly, except for, you know, stay on the ground, because Gilly has so little mass that gravity isn't really a problem. It's just, I've said this, I think it was my Jewel video, 2 weeks ago. Oh yeah, by the way, sorry for skipping the uploads. But, I mentioned that, Gilly has an extremely low surface gravity, because it's just a tiny little speck in EVE orbit. Of course, if it was an asteroid, that was just wandering on the solar system, it'd be a gargantuan asteroid, but it's just a tiny little speck of rock in EVE orbit. So we're doing the landing. I did use one mod to get this accomplished, this style, which is tweak scale, to scale up those tanks. So I'll be using that a lot, but this is otherwise completely stock. So yeah. And I'm sure if I were to upload this, you could run it stock. Just you could run it completely stock with no mods on the latest version of KSP. All that would happen is it would say missing part module on X, Y, and Z fuel tank, and you'd be, it would size them back down to normal. Because it's not a part, it's a part module, tweak scale settings. So we can disembark that lander, lower the visor, because I just like it, how it looks. I think on non-atmospheric planets, I lower the visor, because that's how it does in real life. And also, I installed the mod hull cams, so we can actually go into first person while on EVA. And we can plant that flag in first person. Which is, it's pretty cool, not gonna lie, that we can do that. But, you know, this isn't science mode, this is sandbox mode. I made a community post, not gonna tell you what it said. You gotta go find it yourself, because I need to promote my channel. But, yeah, I had to abandon the G-Bros Aerospace save file because of complications. However, I have no reason to skip uploads now, because I'm not limited by a limited tech tree. Which is great, because now I can just do stuff. And it'll be fine. And I don't gotta do anything crazy, any sort of extravagant missions to gather science. I can just play the video game, and I have fun. So now, we're ascending from the Mun. We're taking a fairly shallow angle of attack, until I realized we were about to hit a hill, at which point I pointed up fairly aggressively to, you know, kick ourselves over the hill and to not crash again. Because, yeah. Now, maybe, I think this does look a bit weird. Not a bit weird. I think this does look a bit strange with that cockpit up there when it's flying this horizontally, because it looks kind of like a space fighter sort of thing, like my old Space Bug space plane, which maybe I could actually revisit in the future, because that was definitely a very fun video to make. But, that was a very fun craft to fly. So, you know, maybe I could revisit that video. But I think that cockpit looks a little bit naff when it's, you know, flying horizontally. Of course, it's the closest thing I could have gotten to the Mercury MKII landing system. But, you know, that's no longer an issue, because now we are going to be docking, or at least not docking yet, but making our rendezvous node to meet up with the command and service module Gemini pod. And we're just going to do some orbit skipping to save fuel and time and my sanity. So minimal burning, 5 meters per second, and a lot of screen flashing. But after that, we can simply warp to 1 second on the node, since it's a 2-second burn. You want to start your burns about halfway through the estimated burn time to the burn, so the T-minus is half of the estimated burn time. That's when you start your burn. So we can line up the nodes second hand, because the maneuver node maker isn't always spot on. It's close enough, but it's not spot on. So it's really good to just, after you've completed the node, go for it. And there's a monarch there! Now, I did want to, in that mission, I brought a car with me. I brought the Apollo LRV, and I tried to drive up there, but the hill was just too steep. But hey, there was a monarch. That's pretty cool. Of course I can't land there, because there's not enough fuel left. At least to ascend. I could probably land there and just be stuck there forever. Which sounds like a not an ideal fate for Valentina Kerman. So, instead of landing by the Monarch, we're just gonna boost towards the, this command and service module. This will be fine. We're gonna dock and we're gonna go home. And I'm gonna go to sleep because it's kind of late. Actually, it's not that late. I'm just tired from, doing stuff. I haven't had the greatest day today. I mean, yesterday I was swimming in my pool and hit my head on patio. So, my day's been about as good as somebody who's come fresh from that experience can be. But we're going to do the quick deorbit to not leave any debris in orbit, and then we're going to boost ourselves out of the sphere of influence. Although, we don't want to also boost out of Kerbin's sphere of influence, so we're going to slow down very slightly. Now, I had some Delta V to burn, so I just decided to make a node here, instead of waiting for me to pass all the way around Kerbin for like a few months. I just did it. I just did it now. I didn't want to wait. Didn't want to make my Kerbals wait in space longer than they had to, because that one time when I missed my node, Jebediah had to spend an extra month in space because I'm stupid. That was a while ago in my Shuttle to the Moon video. But yeah. So now we're going to aim for water. I'm using the Kerbal Engineer Flight Engineer to make sure I get my water landing. It's actually really simple. You just install Kerbal Engineer mod, and then you have it so that your indicator marker is pretty deep into water. Kerbal Engineer Flight Engineer landings does compensate for planetary rotation, however, it does not compensate for atmospheric drag. So, you got to be careful with that. I'm going to pause the recording for 1 minute, and then I'll be back. So now that I'm back, we're doing re-entry, and I shaved a lot of the ablator off because we really don't need it. Even from entering from the Mun's height, you really don't need it. A heat shield is necessary, but not that much ablator is necessary. So we're gonna not do my normal procedure of waiting till the parachute's open and then ditching the shield. We're just gonna ditch it then. I don't really know why, just because I was bored, and floating down on parachutes gets boring, even with a bit of spinning. So I decided to cut a parachute to start going down a bit faster, still in the safe range, just faster, and cutting the other one right before splashdown. But that was splashdown, and now we've recovered the vessel, and now we are back at the Kerbal Space Center. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I sure did enjoy making it, and I sure did enjoy one-upping Matt Lowne. If you also enjoyed this video, I don't know where, subscribe, like, leave a comment, all the YouTube things. Have a wonderful day, week, whatever period of time. Stay yes. Goodbye.